So Naomi Watts is opening up about her experience with menopause, revealing it happened early for her and she was completely unprepared. She told Page Six, women are forced to silence themselves and they feel ashamed, but it's not a failure and it's not a disease. Facts. Do we need to talk more about menopause?
Yes! Say it with me, yes!
So true.
Menopause affects, as far as I know, every woman, virtually every woman out there. And yet it's like this hush-hush secret. I'm turning 45 in a couple of weeks. I know it's probably on the horizon. And I hope that I'm gonna be able to just be out and discuss it all the time, because I'm shocked, actually, at the dearth of information on menopause. I consider myself a pretty educated person, and yet, sort of in mainstream discussion, I'm like so out of it. And I realize it's not just me to blame. Last Friday, I want to say, whenever June the 10th was the first ever Equal Research Day. And the whole point of this day was to recognize how women are virtually absent in clinical research for anything, and how there is such a gap in medicine when it comes to women, because we're this mysterious body where things happen. And it's like, this is the stuff that I hope that our generation is gonna change. I've been on the pill since I was 16 years old.
Wow.
So I'm already starting to work with, I have a functional medicine doctor, which is a whole new world that I'm exploring, because I need to get a handle on my hormones, because it's not only menopause, it's the fact that as we age generally, we have more incidence of disease and illness and all kinds of other scary things that I wanna get ahead of. So I hope that me and all people who have a platform can talk about it, because I don't get how we're still in the dark ages when it comes to our bodies.
To me, it makes complete sense. I mean, for all the reasons that you're talking about, of course, it's horrible that women's bodies aren't considered more important in the research fields. But from what I understand, they've actually been doing a lot of research on menopause. We're just not talking about it. Why? I think part of the reason is a cultural shame around women's bodies that we have to deal with. And I think one of it is also to do with the rise of women in the workforce. I know even when we started the show, I remember having conversations where it was like, you don't want to go into a position where you want to be equal with men and start talking about your PMS, your terrible period cramps. And right now I was reading this article in the New York Times, and there was a woman talking about how she, in meetings now, goes out and says, oh, I've got peri-brain. She means the mental fog that can happen during perimenopause and menopause. And I didn't actually even know that was a thing. And I'm so glad she's calling it out, but I wonder, what will her future look like in that company as a result of, and depending on what your job is, to admit that you regularly have something that impacts your brain? How will that impact her future career?
Well, you most definitely know it's going to impact. Actually, we have a Facebook message from Melissa who says, I went into menopause at 35 because of cancer treatment. I wish the women in my life had been more open about the physical changes the body undergoes, and that heat flashes are so different from just feeling hot. And I totally identify with what she's saying, because in 2019, I decided to have a hysterectomy. I had a lot of issues since the age like 21 with my uterus and everything, and I'd had surgeries before, and I decided with my doctor to have this surgery because it was the best choice for me. And she told me about all of the side effects. She told me that, of course, not the inability to have children. She talked about the fact that I had osteoporosis, and she talked about heart disease. And those are the biggies that I paid attention to. And she mentioned hot flashes, but I'd seen my mother roll down the winter in the middle of, in the middle of the highway, like just trying. So I didn't think it was a big deal. And I was really just trying to grapple with the fact that I was never gonna have children. Even though I didn't really want them, there was this kind of like weight of like, that's not a possibility. And then there's all these other things. And I really wasn't focused on that until I got my first hot flash. And let me tell you something, it is a doozy. Like, there've been times
Because it put you into early menopause?
It put me into early menopause, which happens when you have a hysterectomy. And I'm telling you right now, people, I cannot describe it to you, but there have been lots of times where I'm on camera where I feel like I'm gonna burst into flames, and all that's gonna be left is a wig and these lashes. Like, it is real, and I can't describe it to people. It's like being in a house and just being comfortable, and someone turning up the thermostat as high as they can, and you cannot open a window. You just have to sit there and be in that moment. And that brain fog is real. All of it is real, and you're right, no one discusses it, and I'll be honest with you, I can discuss anything, and I've discussed everything on camera, but there's something so weird, and I don't know how to even articulate it, about letting people know that I'm in this phase, about like admitting that you're older and you're in this phase where you're no longer this fertile young woman. I don't know, it's just a weird thing that's like, I can cry just thinking about it, just like talking about it, but it's a very weird thing, and not everybody's going through it,
so
not everybody
big that you're saying it here.
Yeah,
it really is.
I know it's great because I know other people are going through it and you're having that discussion, but it's a lot. I always, I tell people, oh, I just run hot. because I don't know how to say to them, I had a hysterectomy, I'm way into early perimenopause, and it's real. And note that sweat, if you've seen me, you know that I'm always my little thin, because I have to, or I'm done, especially when you're on camera and you're talking to people. There's nothing cute about beads of sweat coming down your face and people going, are you okay? And it's like, it's weird to say to a camera, oh, I'm just going through perimenopause. So it's an important conversation. Yeah, you have to normalize it, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, and that's why conversations like this are so important, right? Because it's that stigma. I feel like I grew up in a really strict Christian community that did not teach us a lot about sex ed or any of those things. So I weighed a lot on the media and like things in references in movies and things like that. So, but that only gives you so much as well. I only know about hot flashes because of movies and things, but you don't know much further than that. And anyone that goes through it, they talk about how just insane it is and all these different things that we wouldn't even think of. So I'm definitely in for a treat when that comes down the line because I still don't know enough. So I think it's so important that we have these conversations.
Yeah. There's also, I mean, I have a friend who is going through it and she just said she literally went through it early and she said, I don't know my vagina anymore. I have to get to know my vagina again. And again, this is part to circle back into sex. It's like there's all these aspects of women's sexuality and sexual health. And just to circle back to the last conversation though, it's like, at what point will there be a tipping point where companies start to hop on? We're just seeing the glimpses of this and start to create products targeted towards us that may or may not be good for us.
And the conversations, though, should also be, of course, the more information you have, the less scary it is, right? Exactly. Then it becomes normalized. Then you're like, oh, this is not something that is weird. I'm just hot. This is the hot flash. I always think about what you used to say a lot after you had Jaya. And you said that the conversation that you always heard about childbirth was the negative one. It hurt so bad. Yeah. And it made you scared of it, where you can have a very peaceful childbirth, understanding that not everybody has it, but there are people who do have very calm, peaceful childbirthing experiences. It is the same for menopause too. Yes, it's bad for some people. Yes, they have brain fog. Yes, the hot flashes are bad. However, I am going through perimenopause right now. I can say my story is not that bad, not bad at all. In fact, I'm fascinated with my body. I'm like a butterfly right now. As a teenager, my body transitioned to fertility and it was meant for one thing. Now, this amazing thing happened where it's shutting down and doing different things and it is evolving into something new. That is it's a superpower. Like I'm an organism that is changing in midlife. I think that's amazing, and I feel really good. There are a few annoying things, but at the same time, there are a few annoying things that happened to me when I was 25 years old, or whatever baby age you are. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to acknowledge the difficulties that some people have when they're going through the menopause process, but I would like to also put out that it doesn't have to be crappy.
It needs a rebrand.
Yeah,
it needs a rebrand. But I think you were mentioning it, Cyn. It is the workforce is starting to change, and I think that even though there has been progress with not only women in the workforce, but also who's in the corner office, I think the pandemic has maybe set us back. But I think that my hope is that as women continue to break through those C-suites, that there is I hope, more of an accepting environment so that you can say out loud in a meeting, my body is a wonderland.
Yes. I mean, it is pretty cool.
I'm having a
what's happening to my body.
And bring out your fan and go, continue talking, I'm listening.
And it be okay, because it's not going to change you at your job, for somebody. Yeah. Just maybe that moment, or maybe that day, or a few days, right? So good on Naomi Watts. Well, listen, I hope we're on the air for a really long time, guys, because we'll be talking about it on this show, if for no other reason for us to stay on the air. A resource for your menopausal change.